Hello and welcome. Today we are going to look at a new product or project idea. The idea is to create a combination of two already existing concepts, one being a URL shortener and the other one being like a QR code generator. Combining those two functionalities, two products, is going to benefit us in multiple ways, and I think it's a really cool project that I just want to do for myself. I already tried recording this, so the plan that I drew is ready, so I'm just going to show it to you. What are we going to do? So the idea is, name says it all, short QR, combine URL shortening with QR code generation in some sort of way. Why? Because URL shortener means we have less characters for a URL for reference, and with less characters we have more stable and better QR codes. With those better and more stable QR codes, there are a lot of improvements, and yeah. The other feature is less chars. It's easy human readable and it's easy lookup for validation. So thinking about security aspects of QR codes, one big problem is that you're not able to check out what's behind the QR code before you just hit enter and access the website. And by adding some kind of like a filter layer, so you can go to the website, like short QR is the name I'm giving the project. We have to see what domain we can get, and then just checking out the like 6-letter, 7-letter combination, whatever we seem fit. We can get like a description of the website before we enter it, so somebody can provide like a documentation up front, and we don't risk going onto websites we don't want to access. Then 3 main aspects of this project for myself. First is learning. I want to see how to set things up. I have never built a URL shortener. I don't think I have done something similar. I think the concept is not that hard. It's a good size of a solo project, I would say, so I'm going to do this. Also, obviously, it's a CV project. I'm going to add monitoring and logging, like the whole backend stack and metrics, everything I want to showcase that I'm able to do. And then, of course, it is going to be a YouTube project, as you would have guessed, because I'm talking to you. I started laying out some of the first iterations. First phase is just combining the two key features, being the URL shortener and the QR code generator, that will already include like the most basic tech stack. Like we need a database to store the shortened URLs. We will need some kind of REST API, some CRUD interface in the backend. We need some kind of front end already. That will be our MVP, most viable product, or minimal viable product. And from that out, we can go into phase 1, where we can think of creating like a proper UI, something that is actually showable to potential customers. Something like a management plane for our URLs, where we can allow the users to adjust the URLs, not only create and recreate. We can improve and implement the URL lookup. Like I mentioned before, we want to add this security layer that has to be done in phase 1, and then user handling in some sort, like login, and maybe because we are adding login, we can add additional features of like creating fancy QR codes with logos or colorful or something more sophisticated than just the typical QR code. Phase 2, that's like the long run. If we see there's actual interest for it, we can look into billing and marketing for things, and how we can maybe get a profit out of this product. And then for the tech stack, I'm quite open for suggestions. So this is the first video. This is the planning phase still. I want to do some more planning. I started with the first system design and then the DB design, which are both very simple, to be honest. So there's some more time for planning, and I want to do a write-up of this. So there's time to answer for you if you have any suggestions for the tech stack. My current idea is to have a Go backend and a plain HTML, CSS, maybe JavaScript we will need JavaScript for the front end. So something like a vanilla stack for the front end, something in Go for the back end, and then DB, we will go with something easy like Postgres or some SQL-based database in the beginning, I think. Yeah, that's for the product idea. Next thing we want to look at is the system design. I started this and I labeled it already as the MVP system design because it is only that. We are going to look at two basic scenarios, the lookup and the create. So this is my representation of a QR design. From the QR code, we will get to the URL code, which is basically the 7 characters we have to check what we want. And with that, we go to the DB, and from the DB, we will return the full URL to the customer. For the create, it's the other way around. We have the URL, we provide the URL to the backend and create a URL code. And on the front end side, why? And from the front end side, we will create the URL. System design wise, we have two layers. We have a UI layer, something I would call like the front end, and an API layer on top of our database. Of course, we need a database. The API layer will have like a basic CRUD application. I think we only need post and get. We're going to do the other two just because good practice. And then in the UI, we will need some kind of functionality to create the code. So some library in JavaScript. I hope there are some good libraries. I can't imagine there are not. And the call to the API. Yeah, and that's basically the system design for the first iteration. Later on, we can get more sophisticated if you check out other videos for system design interviews for URL shorteners like Bitlify or what they are called. You can see there's a lot of improvements. We can think about load balances and we can think about mapping certain ranges of keys to different backends and implementing some additional caching. But we are talking about an MVP here, so it's going to be as minimalistic as possible and straight to the point. Straight to the point and minimalistic is also our database model for the MVP, which is just going to be our URL. We will create an auto ID just for, because we can, and we will create a URL code in string, and this will be also our key, our sorting key and indexed key. So we have a rather quick lookup on that, and then we have the URL string, which is the normal URL that we want to return. I was thinking about maybe having something like a key value store or just something like DynamoDB, something more faster, more modern. But then I was thinking also that in the future we might want to add like user handling, and a user can have multiple URLs and stuff. And I think with Postgres, we are not running into that much of performance issues, I would say. And I think if we have to redesign, this should be like a pretty easy redesign. And with Postgres, we should have some room before we had any capability issues. Yeah, so that's the overall idea. Going to zoom out a bit, and that's the project that we're going to start. I think it's a cool idea. It's a cool project. I'm going to build this out. I want to get done with the MVP rather fast, so I'm going to start with the coding on that soonish. And the phase 1 and phase 2, I think that's a little bit dependent on how the motivation is and how the feedback is, and if there's any major blockers before implementing. But the MVP is the product I really want to get through, and with the MVP, I think with the MVP, we are already going to implement metrics and logging and monitoring and stuff like that. to just showcase what we can do. All right, that being said, if you have any suggestions for the tech stack or any major criticism, feel free to share, and otherwise have a nice day and see you soon.